I'm no longer a child. I am technically an adult. What's a W-2?
And it struck me as like a very uncharacteristically self-aware thing for Kevin Feige to say.
Some of those like over-the-shoulder POVs of him swinging, I feel like there's something that we've never seen.
It is a very Batman-ish Spider-Man movie.
The only way I can describe it is like this is Spider-Man Prime.
Some of the best action in the MCU.
He's ready for big potatoes.
So welcome to the new and improved SRP studio. It will not look this good for the next 2 episodes because we're recording this the day of, and we have 2 in the can
Yes.
for the next 2 weeks.
Spider-Man.
Tom Holland has now appeared. Wait, how do I?
Let's restart this. Welcome back to the Silver Retention Podcast. Today we are talking about the brand new in theaters film Spider-Man. What was it? No Way Home, or not No Way Home. What the hell was it? Brand New Day.
Yeah, was the pun not intentional? I thought that's where you were going with that.
No.
Like the brand new. I was like, I see what you did there.
Let's try that one more time. Okay. Welcome back to the Silver Retention Podcast. Today we are talking about the brand new Spider-Man, Brand New Day. And I am very excited to talk about this, even though Spider-Man's not one of my main superhero picks. He's probably not in my top 5, although this might change my mind. As you can tell already, I have a very strong positive opinion of the film, and I cannot wait to talk about it. What do you think so far?
It's defining for the character in live action. Tom Holland has now led more standalone Spider-Man movies than any other actor. With number 4, he had already been the longest running by, not by years because Tobey technically still has that from 2023, from 2002 to 2023, but by number of appearances, he's had the most. But yeah, now he's got 4. There's probably going to be 2 more, I would imagine, given that I'm sure that in the sense that the first 3 were the home trilogy, this is the, I assume, Day trilogy. Is kind of the theme that they're going to have.
Possibly, yeah, that does make sense. And I will say right off the bat, the way we're going to structure this show is we're working on getting a little bit more structure to the Silver Retention Podcast. And the way that we're going to do that with this episode is the first however long we decide to go until we start dipping into spoiler territory will be spoiler-free. Ethan will let you know in the time code at the bottom of the screen once this is actually properly edited. But then after that, we're going to talk about spoilers because, in my opinion, there's a lot to talk about in reference to spoilers. But starting with a spoiler-free discussion of the film, do you have any thoughts at the top of your mind?
Yeah, I think the authorities should perform a welfare check on John Watts. I hope he's doing okay these days. Destin Daniel Cretton does have a lot more chops as a director, but this was a pretty tough, just whooping. Yeah, in terms of the step up of the action, the way the camera moves, and the way that the shots are composed, even in the very straightforward dialogue scenes. It's just a massive step up across the board, and so I've not been a fan of the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, not because I don't like Tom Holland. I think he's a great actor. We talked about him in The Odyssey very positively. I love him in The Devil All the Time, but I don't really think he ever got a lot to work with, at least in his solo films. And now it feels like he's with a director that can really make the most of his talents.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the other films aren't as fresh in my mind, so I can't say anything kind of about them. But with this film in particular, I walked out of it thinking, this is probably the best. It was definitely the best Tom Holland Spider-Man movie.
Agreed.
By far. It might be my favorite Spider-Man movie that exists.
How about that?
It's interesting. I love the Tobey ones. I grew up on those, and I think they're really fun. But I feel like it's so weird because to me, this movie felt like an origin story.
Yeah, that's been a recurring thing where with Tom Holland's version specifically, they've had a hard time figuring out, okay, when is he like Spider-Man? Mm-hmm. They start him off where he's kind of under Iron Man's shadow, and so the first 2 movies are getting him out of that shadow that they put him under. And then the third one is kind of oh no, this is who I am as an individual hero. And then this one is also, this is who I am as an individual hero. And so it feels like they've been not really sure when to like stop originating him. And this feels like they've hit the zenith of like, oh, you've set up everything that you need to set up about this character for him to be fully realized as a grown-up Spider-Man who's out on his own. And from here, my hope is that we can build upon that and not have any more pseudo origins.
Yeah, well, I doubt we will, but I think the reason why it feels like an origin story to me is largely because it kind of follows the elements of the hero's journey in the sense that he kind of has to, accept certain things about himself. We'll get into the details of that later on. But even just like the general structure of it where, MJ is no longer there, his best friend's no longer there, like all of these different elements that he kind of has to work through. And he has to kind of recreate his own world. It's a really interesting way to do it because, and obviously the setup from the last film preceded this in the sense that this had to be the story that was told. And I think it was a good thing. I think it was an interesting choice. But obviously the ones that came before this were really interesting. I liked his back and forths with Tony earlier on in the series. I liked the way they developed his character early on in the series. But I think there's some interesting themes about adulthood here.
Yeah.
And that really is, it's right on the forefront. That isn't a surprise. That's like from the beginning. And I think that's part of why it resonates with me, who is kind of in that stage. I'm a little bit older than what the character is in the film. But like when you're in your early mid-20s and you're kind of, nowadays the way society is structured, you're kind of finding how you fit. Like back, a couple hundred years ago, you were an adult by the time you were a teenager. You were already working. You were already, potentially finding the person that you were going to marry. Life started a lot earlier.
And there was a very clear formula for what adult life was like for a young man in America.
Yes, and now things have gotten so much more complicated. Adolescence is kind of stretched where, by the time you're 18, you are an adult legally. But we've now discovered that your brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25. And so there is this weird second chapter of adolescence of, okay, you're legally an adult and you have the responsibilities of an adult, but you really haven't figured out how to exist as a human in the world as an adult yet. I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people are waiting to either get married or have kids or something. It's because with the greater complexity of the world, with our better understanding of ourselves as biological creatures, we're giving ourselves that kind of grace period to go, okay, so I'm no longer a child. I am technically an adult. What's a W-2? What do you mean I have to pay local, state, and federal taxes? Like just all these little intricacies that you don't know as a child, but you haven't yet mastered. There's a lot of things that we don't get taught that we then either have to figure out on our own or we have to find somebody who is a good mentor to kind of help guide us through that path. And it's really interesting because that element of the hero's journey usually was the childhood element. Usually that was all wrapped up by the time you were exiting your teenage years because you were ready to rock into adulthood. Now, because everything is different, we have that second stage. And I think the reason this excites me so much is because I've been wondering about doing a story like this in the most abstract way, just that second half of adolescence, of being a young adult trying to figure out the world in that kind of college, post-college era. And I feel like there's a lot of times where we focus on the teen years because, there's marketing reasons. It's because those are the people who have the most free time to watch things. So they're going to be the most interested in people that are directly related to them. But also I think it's because that's still tumultuously the highest, year range that we have for whether it's your hormones or whether it's, just really trying to figure out how to be a human. I understand that. But I think there are really interesting stories to be told in that 18 to 25, 30 range where you're entering the workforce for the first time, or you're at college, so you're in a whole new world, literally. You're usually away from home. It's your first time away from home, figuring out how to exist on your own amongst your peers, no safety net. And then you drop what might be the shadow of a safety net after college to go into the real world where now you have a job and now you're not paying to be there. You can get fired in a moment's notice. And there's that, kind of anxiety on your shoulders of I don't want to mess up, yada, yada, yada. And then you're figuring, okay, I have to deal with rent. I have to deal with groceries. I have to deal with we all deal with laundry, ideally, probably from childhood. But all of these different things start piling up. things that you used to have to deal with as a child and didn't think much of. Suddenly now you have to worry about like 16,000 other things on top of that. And a lot of that adulthood is managing those things. And I think the way that this film does that is really interesting because Peter is so isolated, and he is kind of self-isolated because he could have made decisions differently. And this isn't much of a spoiler because this is how the movie starts. But he could have made different decisions, but he's chosen isolation for the reasons that he chose. And as a result of that, he has buried himself in work. And I didn't think about this until right now, right as I'm saying this. But I feel like there are elements here of the kind of Sigma online subculture that have existed for the last 10 years or so that are here. Where that like wake up Grindset, like just be the pinnacle physical and work version of yourself that you can be, and that will give you achievement and fulfillment. And I think it's an interesting take on that because it shows the consequences of choosing that lifestyle.
Yeah, you're gonna burn out essentially because it starts off as almost this like fantasy of like, wouldn't it be cool to be Spider-Man? And you're just in this sick ass loft. You're independently wealthy because you've inherited from Tony. And you just wake up, be Spider-Man, and go to bed and repeat. And the film shows that, like, yeah, that sounds like a really cool way to live. We don't work that way. Psychologically, biologically, like, we need certain things to regenerate us and restore us. And that's part of what that hero's journey that Peter goes through is of realizing, oh, like, I can't do this and not start to break down.
Yeah. And I think it was really, like, the more I'm reflecting on it, the more I'm realizing, like, Frank was the perfect foil to him in the film. Like, that was the perfect choice. I also think, and again, we'll get into spoilers here in a little bit, but there's another character that shows up that I think is another great foil for him. Also very excited to talk about some of the elements about that character. Yeah. Different than the one I think you're thinking of, or that you think I'm thinking of.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of the main.
Oh, you're not thinking of the main twist. It's
no. Yeah, I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
Of the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. But in that vein, and we can talk a little bit more about the psychology and the analysis of kind of being a young man in the 2020s, especially like a self-isolated man. But I think just in terms of the filmmaking itself, I really. You know, I'm a sucker for the 2:3:9 to 1 aspect ratio. I thought every composition was beautiful. One choice in particular I really liked was the filming of the swinging scenes.
Yep.
There was something about them, like I'd have to watch it again to really kind of parse through, but that intimate experience of it and kind of some of those like over-the-shoulder POVs of him swinging, I feel like there's something that we've never seen in that exact way.
A little bit of it in those shots specifically, a little bit of that in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
The one that Cretton brought that I hadn't seen before is following him over the edge.
Yeah.
That's something that was new too. And I knew Cretton was going to do stuff like that because he had previously done Shang-Chi, a movie I don't love, but has some of the best action in the MCU.
Yep.
And he's one of these, we talked about this in the past of, you know, it's very rare to find a director that can make the big fight scenes feel very fluid and not like they're chopping up to hide awkwardness in the choreography. And Cretton is really able to keep that going. And so my expectations were hit and exceeded on how he was able to make the jumping and the swinging and the fighting feel so much more immersive than it has in the past couple of movies.
Yeah, I agree. Fully agreed. And I think I really like the color palette as well. I thought the set deck choices and the, you know, LUT choices for the different portions of the film worked really well. Yeah. I think there were dark areas, there were dark tones for the right locations, but we also had some brightness, we had some color. We had a really good, interesting balance when each of the times called for it.
Yeah. This and Thunderbolts last year both made good steps in the direction of reintroducing contrast to Marvel movies. And I think it could be a testament to just that these are new directors that are bringing a little bit more robust of an eye to things than some others have. It could also be just the realization that people are starting to take note of the very low saturation, low contrast, high key thing. People are kind of over that. The heyday of the MCU was before they started to devolve into that, so I think they might be realizing that, okay, it's worth spending a little bit extra time on set to get really good lighting.
Well, it's clear, I don't know what the cases would be internally, but it feels as though this director was given a lot more freedom than maybe some more recent directors had, because it feels far more stylized. And that may just be choices of different directors, or it may be the fact that the studio is kind of letting the reins go.
It is fascinating to see who Feige gives the most leeway to. James Gunn got by far the most leeway. I think Ryan Coogler got a lot. I think there were a lot of script issues with, like, interference as far as Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness went, but I think on set they gave Raimi a good amount of freedom with that one. But it is just fascinating to see, like, which directors he, like, keeps a very tight leash on and which ones he's like, go nuts.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I will also say I thought before getting into the details of the story, I thought the story structure was really solid. I thought there were twists I did not expect, which was really nice to see. I per my usual, I went into this film knowing nothing about it. I knew it was another Spider-Man movie. I knew nothing about what was happening other than what I learned at the end of the third one. So there are definitely things that were twists for me that might not be twists for you because I wasn't online.
A big point I would make in the non-spoiler section that applies to both story and the visual look of the film is No Way Home in particular felt way more reshot. It's a very reshot looking movie.
Interesting. Okay.
The impression I got, and this has been kind of corroborated by stuff that has come out about the production, it was very much we're going to find this movie in the process of making it. There was a time and a place for that. That place is not a $300 to $400 million investment, and that may have been a reason why they did not move forward with John Watts. There was at one point a comment that the third act of the script was not written when they shot the first two. They basically started with, we're bringing in the other Spider-Man. Let's shoot it. And so I was able to see it in the theaters, see the stitch marks in Frankenstein's body to get that movie to where it ended up. This, I'm sure there were plenty of reshoots. Marvel does lots and lots of reshoots, but this felt like a much more... It felt much more like this was the movie that was intentionally made, as opposed to something that was you found in the process, found by cobbling together a couple different versions. Because it was interesting on the plane. I was during the 3+ hours I spent sitting on the taxiway at the Atlanta International Airport.
They brought you down to Atlanta and back?
That was where my layover was, and so we were delayed by like 11 hours. We were delayed by 11 hours, and then I rebooked earlier, so that's why I'm here right now.
They brought you from Minneapolis to Atlanta to go to Philly.
That's Frontier Airlines for you.
That's horrific.
Never flying with them again.
Dude.
I like their prices a lot. Specifically, the customer service that we experienced for this trip was abysmal.
Yeah, well, also just the flight time alone.
Yeah, it was horrendous. So, that whole saga is probably best saved for off mic. But I spent a lot of time both just sitting on the taxiway doing nothing and sitting in the airport doing nothing. Hence why I got about an hour of sleep last night.
You're functioning how I did in the short film last week.
Exactly, yeah. It all comes around. And so anyway, yes, so I'm sitting on the taxiway waiting for the thunderstorms in Philly to pass. And so I listened to the recent Blank Check episode on John Carter, which was a massive financial failure and an attempt that Disney had shortly after Avatar, where, can our sci-fi epics be our thing now? To take the Pixar model of I don't know if you're familiar with how the Pixar story group works of
no.
They do these story reels and then they screen it for this brain trust of other screenwriters, and they get a bunch of notes, and then they go and they do that all over again. And this is all in the story reels phase, so it's like an animatic.
Okay.
And then they do this again and again until it's absolutely bulletproof, and then they go actually animate the movie. It was essentially Steve Jobs who co-founded Pixar, taking a tech mindset and applying it to screenwriting, which worked out well because that was just an extended pre-production process. Animation blurs that line a little bit, but it basically was just extended storyboard. They thought that they could translate that to live action. And so Andrew Stanton, big fan of the John Carter novels, directed Finding Nemo and Wall-E, was this very successful director, considered the best screenwriter in the Pixar family. They thought that they could just, and he thought he could just kind of go and just do the Pixar thing. So they end up shooting that movie like 3 or 4 times and spending a lot of money to do that because they think they can replicate this. Oh, we'll find it in the process.
Got it.
And what Griffin, one of the co-hosts of that show, pointed out was it's fascinating that was such a ridiculed way to make a film at the time, and the trades kind of just like almost like mocked it in a sense of just like, this is a ridiculous overindulgence. Why in the world would you make a movie this way? And then it kind of became the main way that blockbusters get made in the Marvel and beyond era. And that immediately made me think of Spider-Man No Way Home, where because it was guaranteed to make so much money off the nostalgia of having all these Spider-Men together, and it did make a ton of money, they could justify just wasting resources and time on, we can shoot this a bunch of different ways and have a bunch of different versions of this movie, and we just stamp the logo on it, we make an instant billion, so it's worth that investment. It's interesting that this film backs away and shows a little bit more restraint. Of this feels like a film that was written as it was written coherently and then was shot coherently. And again, I'm sure there were reshoots. I'm sure that's a part of the process of any big movie like this. You're gonna have test screenings that give you different feedback. You need to get other stuff. But it's a marked difference between the two films that I think was a big positive for me anyway, who prefers strong visions and prefers a lot of intentionality versus, yeah, we'll figure it out and we'll just light money on fire until we get there.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I also think in terms of just the production elements of it as well, obviously this is a very CGI and green screen heavy film. Didn't feel it that much for me. There were scenes where I was like, this is clearly CGI, but it's not bothering me.
Yeah.
Like, it looks good. Like I was impressed by the digital artistry here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a testament to the way that Marvel, actually Disney as a whole, when Bob Iger came back and took the CEO job back after turning over disastrously to Bob Chapek, Kevin Feige gave an interview shortly thereafter and said, look, it's no secret the fans think that we've been prioritizing quantity over quality and we need to like adjust that. And it struck me as like a very uncharacteristically self-aware thing for Kevin Feige to say, who is normally almost robotically promotional. For him to, I'm sure based on conversations he had with his once and future boss, okay, like we need to clean up house because we've been throwing so much at a wall. We've been spending so much money on Disney Plus that has not been going well. We've been spending so much on movies that have not been going well, except for Spider-Man No Way Home. Even something as much of a slam dunk as Guardians of the Galaxy 3 underperforms, right? So like they knew that they were in dire straits, I think, and maybe that was Feige realizing it himself. Maybe Iger put the fear of God in him somehow. But it's interesting that they do seem to be kind of correcting that.
Well, and also even
Fantastic Four is a correction of that. Thunderbolts is a correction of that. This is a correction of that, you know.
And I will say, even just from that standpoint and them probably internally trying to view whether or not that was a successful choice, if I didn't look directly, I saw a post about it. Apparently, Brand New Day has already surpassed Odyssey at the box office. Odyssey was sitting at 911 million.
Yes,
I think
that's the most recent number that's come.
And Brand New Day was at 917 after opening weekend.
So worldwide is 927 currently.
Yeah,
for Brand New Day, and worldwide for the Odyssey is 911. Yes, which is nuts. And I have an additional statistic that this past weekend that would have been third for the Odyssey and first for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Biggest domestic box office weekend of all time.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So Brand New Day got biggest opening box office of all time?
No, the Odyssey? Combination of... No. I'm saying the domestic box office.
Yes.
Playing, among other things, Toy Story 5, The Odyssey, and Spider-Man Brand New Day. that is the biggest weekend for the American box office.
Oh, I see.
Ever.
Okay. Is
unadjusted for inflation.
I was going to say unadjusted.
That always comes up. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why the industry never adjusts for inflation, probably so they can tout, this is the highest grossing movie of all time every other year.
Yes. But I will say, like, obviously non-adjusted for inflation, it's hard to say how that really fares, but that is a really good indicator for the industry.
We're so back.
Well, also, this kind of goes into what we talked about previously on the show about wanting, like, going to see the movies you want to see more of. Spider-Man Brand New Day is clearly in that category.
Yeah, I again, as somebody that is much more a DC fan, not really a big comic book fan, a movie fan anymore, like, this is what I would like them to do more of. Like, I said the same thing about Thunderbolts, and kind of Fantastic Four was a little out there for my taste, but for sure Thunderbolts in this, I was like, if Marvel did this all the time, I'd be a fan.
Yes.
And I'm not saying these movies are the be-all, end-all. I think that there are better superhero movies out there, but I think that, like, this is them making real movies. This is them really locking in on making the shot composition and the visual language feel intentional, of having a story that's not afraid to get real and not feel like it's taking the piss out of itself constantly. If this is what Avengers Doomsday is going to be like, I might be more excited for that than I thought I was. Previously, my excitement level being 0.
Yeah. I did. As soon as they said that Downey was coming back as, like, a different character,
I'm like, all right, give me a break. Like,
I was just like, I had no interest in seeing this to begin with, and now I have, like, negative interest to see this because that just feels like a cash grab. But, like, do what you got to do. I understand you're in a position where things aren't going as well as you want, so you got to do that.
This really is, I think, an important moment where the superhero genre in general has lost its luster in the last 5 years. The MCU has struggled to find a coherent vision for the future. Like, everything felt so meticulously set up to Thanos. And you didn't necessarily get the whole picture until Infinity War, but you knew that you were being led in a direction. And I think that after the pandemic, after that, they kind of were like, they wanted to have their finger in so many different pies, so many projects got canceled and moved around, and there were references that didn't get picked up on, or hooks that didn't get followed up on, I should say. And then there was this whole idea of the next big villain was going to be Kang, played by Jonathan Majors, and then he sort of had a fall from grace. The legal side of that I'm not even going to touch on the show. But there was enough ambiguity there to make it look like he was somebody that would not be good for PR to continue working with.
It's such a shame too, because I loved the movie Devotion.
Yeah, he's a great actor. It really is a shame. But even though Kang is literally the most recastable character in the Marvel universe, they did not do so, and instead basically just aborted that and pivoted hard to Doom without a lot of setup. And so all of this stacks up to make Doomsday the best indicator we're going to get of if the MCU still has it. Because Spider-Man making almost $1 billion in a weekend doesn't mean that they're in the clear, because Spider-Man has always been their Spider-Man's their Batman. Yeah. He's the cash cow. They, like, Feige and Esposito and all them could all get fired and they could completely hard reset and just do Spider-Man, and they'd make just as much money as they've been making, practically. The real test is going to be, can they carry this over into a big event that is going to have a lot of different characters, a lot of moving pieces, and is going to be the first thing we've seen with the Avengers branding since Endgame. It's really going to be an interesting litmus test. I think it probably will do pretty well. It is going to benefit from sharing a weekend with Dune. There are already memes about Doomsday trying to kind of, like, claw back Barbenheimer. I'm sure there'll be people that do that. I'm sure we'll do some version of that in preparation for the show. So it'll benefit from riding the coattails of Spider-Man. It'll benefit from, people wanting to kind of double feature that with Dune. It's the last best shot they're going to get to prove, like, oh, the MCU's still relevant. And, and there's a reason to still keep making these big, super expensive event movies with the Avengers and such. And we'll see how it goes. It's an intriguing thing.
I agree. And I think with that, it's a good time to get into spoilers.
To jump right into kind of the story, this does something that this movie cracks something that I think the comics have historically always struggled with Spider-Man, which was how do we let him be a grown-up and not feel like we need to draw him back into the types of stories he was in high school? There have been tons of like weird editorial decisions about trying to like hang on to his adolescence so much because that's what sells issues. And they've, No Way Home is even based on one of the worst Spider-Man storylines, One More Day, where they just try to like hard reset tons of his character development because they need him to be. This film, I think, doesn't make a lot of those mistakes and embraces his adulthood. And with that comes the fact that it takes a structure that feels very much like a comic book. Like, I would say this is kind of a value neutral statement for me because I don't think comic accuracy is necessarily the be all end all with movies, but for what it's worth, I think this is the movie of Spider-Man's that feels the most like it was just an issue of a comic book. Because it's typically what Spider-Man does when he's in these big adventures where that are bigger than just his own family of characters. He'll have this lead. He'll need to go talk to this Avenger, or he'll need to go talk to Reed Richards and get advice from him, or he'll need to go and he works a lot with the Punisher in the comics. He has in the film they do an homage to one of my favorite comic book scenes, which is a Punisher carrying the wounded Spider-Man. In the movie, it's into a hospital. In the comics, it's in Civil War. After Tony Stark is kind of sold out Spider-Man, Punisher brings him to Captain America's headquarters. And so they have a cool relationship in the comics. And so it feels very comic booky. It's like, okay, yeah, he's got this thing now. He needs Punisher's help now he's going to keep investigating. Okay, now I need the Hulk's help because, spoiler alert, the Hulk is in this film.
Which is something I very much want to talk about.
Yeah, and so I think that's a good thing to do next. I really appreciated that without feeling like corny as a comic book movie. Like we've talked about either on or off mic with Superman, like gets a little into the cartoony side of comic books for my taste. This didn't do that, but it felt very much like there's just familiarity of like, oh yeah, this is how Spider-Man works. This is a good old fashioned Spider-Man story.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And I think that worked really well for the story overall. And I like some of the details of that in particular I really liked his relationship with, I believe it was the commissioner of the police in the film.
A detective, yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't sure.
Tia from The Bear, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. I was trying to remember where I recognized her from, and then on the way home, I was like, it's Tia. And then, yeah, I don't know if she was a detective or the commissioner. I that wasn't clearly stated. I was assuming commissioner because I was doing the Batman parallel.
Yeah. It is a very Batman-ish Spider-Man movie. Like I've seen a lot of people on Twitter compare it to The Batman as a film. I think thematically there's something to that. But the whole time I was like, because his rock bottom is different than it is in the comics, right? Like in the comics, his rock bottom is he can't pay rent. He's trying to figure out how to take care of Aunt May. His love interest is with Eddie Brock or Harry or whoever. It's like a much lower low than this Peter Parker is. The difference is that this is Peter Parker having to not have the support system. He doesn't have May. He doesn't have...
which I would argue is the lower low.
Like, yeah, in some ways it is, right? Like, it's a different kind of low. And some people thought that it was like, oh, this is just like a really privileged Spider-Man. I've seen weird takes like that on Twitter. But my clapback was, this is so low that this is basically a Batman movie if he didn't have Alfred. If he was trying to be like year 2, year 3, year 4 Batman with no Alfred.
Yeah, but he had the personality of
mess
like Nightwing.
Would right? Yeah, because he is Spider-Man. He's not. They don't Batmanize his personality, but it's like, I think that's a great analogy for like where we find him in terms of trying to figure out his lifestyle. It's like if somebody who was used to having somebody that he could always count on, and that's gone.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And but I do like the fact that despite that, it is very Spider-Man in the sense that even in that kind of Batman-ish environment, we still have the coherent character elements of his personality shine through, which was really cool.
Yeah, he has the humor. He has the like.
Yes.
He doesn't take himself too seriously. Like that's something that Holland did his best at in this film. I think Garfield did the best at overall, which was just the being like funny in a way that feels like, oh, he's a funny guy. Like it's not like he's cracking jokes. He's dropping. There were 16 one-liners, by the way. I did win our bet. But it didn't feel like he was like, oh, I'm going to do stand-up as I'm fighting these guys. It's just like he's a guy that genuinely is funny and doesn't take what he's doing super seriously and has a good time beating the shit out of bad guys.
Yes. Yeah, and I thought that was fun. I also think, obviously, the acting was phenomenal, especially from Tom and Zendaya. And I think part of that was their relationship in the film, and in particular, the moment where she is under mind control. And that twist I didn't see coming. That was really well done.
Yeah.
And I think it was an impressive tour de force of acting capacity throughout the entire film. With that in mind, though, because we just can't seem to help ourselves, I have to make a parallel here, because the buddy duo in this film is the same as the other buddy duo in the other major blockbuster of this weekend, which is The Odyssey, because we have Holland and we have I see his face. What's his name? Bernthal.
Yes.
We have Holland and Bernthal together as buddies doing things in the two major blockbusters of the weekend of Spider-Man and The Odyssey. And I think it's interesting because the relationship is almost exactly the same.
Pretty much, yeah. You kind of have somebody who's very earnest and has this mission that they need to go on, and they feel personally convicted about this is like what they need to do, and you have somebody who's like, none of this freaking matters.
Yeah.
Dude, whatever. Just go home, live your life. Like, it is a really fascinating parallel there.
The only difference is Bernthal's location of hair. In The Odyssey, it's beard and no hair, and then it does a full 180. It's hair and no beard.
Pretty much. It's great, and those two actors are phenomenal at it.
Yes.
The other major attempt to integrate one of the Netflix Marvel characters into the main MCU has not gone as the way I wanted it to. I don't love the way Daredevil is played in She-Hulk. I don't love it in his revival show on Disney Plus, partially because I don't think the Disney Plus shows are really good as a rule, also because I don't think they give Charlie Cox enough to work with, which sucks because Daredevil is my favorite of the Netflix shows. They utilize Punisher much better in this film. They keep him appropriately restrained for the target audience of the film, not going to be the same as a TVMA Netflix show. But they give him his same personality, and they mesh really well together. And it's more of the buddy stuff that we kind of talked about with Supergirl. Like, oh, there's the version of this movie where it's more Kara and Lobo, and it's their kind of. This felt like kind of like what that would have been if that had been the focus of that movie, of the balance between the curmudgeonly, like, let's just kill them all and be done with it, and this more sincere, even if somewhat tormented, person that does have a strong conscience and knows that the right thing to do is sometimes the hard, risky thing as opposed to the surefire, we can end the situation, but we're not going to be able to do as much good in the process.
Yeah, and I think, just to add on another thing in terms of the acting and in relation to those two is I thought Frank's storyline was really cool here. Yeah. I thought his journey was really fun, especially the ending. I thought that was really sweet. I saw some posts this morning when I was waking up looking at TikTok where people were like, it's kind of sad that that's the only positive reinforcement that Frank has ever gotten in his journey is when he was wearing a Spider-Man mask, which, it's bittersweet in that regard. But before we get to the main villain, I want to talk about Hulk.
Let's go. The real Hulk is actually back for the first time since the opening 5 minutes of Infinity War.
So this is the thing. That is what I was excited about, was the fact that I understand that Ruffalo wanted to do like a different version of it, or whoever decided they wanted to do a different.
Well, the Russos were kind of like, we don't know how to write this guy. Ironically, for all of my vitriol towards Joss Whedon, no one has ever written the Hulk better than him in live action.
Yeah.
The Russos had no idea what to do. They kind of dropped the ball with Smart Hulk. Whether Ruffalo was in on that decision or not, I don't know.
Yeah, but my God, I was so excited to see the actual Hulk back, because when he first showed up, when that started, the storyline of him being able to like have the thing on to restrict the Hulk from coming out, the little seed in my mind got planted, was like, is this going to go wrong? Are we going to get like real Hulk again? Like, are we going to see real Hulk in this movie? And then, because it'd been so long, I was like, I feel like I haven't seen real Hulk since 2009. like with the Incredible Hulk. Like that was real Hulk to me.
It
that
feels
was
longer than it's been for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with the Edward Norton one. Like that was real Hulk.
Yeah.
Like even in Avengers, like that to me felt dialed down by comparison to that.
And then in Ragnarok, he's there, but he's kind of kooky because Waititi just makes everything kooky.
Yes.
And then so we literally get like a couple minutes of real Hulk before he gets yeeted. Thanos yeets him through the thing, and then he's just Banner forever.
And and then we had Hulk, as we've seen him in Marvel so far, and I was like, okay, I guess we're still sticking with that. And then Hulk came out.
Well, when he goes into the government facility, I don't know if it was government or like a PMC type situation. I don't know what damage control was supposed to be.
Yeah.
In terms of its
I think it's closer to a PMC
role. Yeah. But when Spider-Man goes in to confront the antagonist, the film there, and you hear the thumping, I was like, oh, that's real Hulk.
Yeah.
I was like, I because at first I was like, oh, is this just gonna be Banner? Like, is Banner basically gonna be what in the traditional Spider-Man comics Reed Richards is? Like the guy he goes to for science advice, and then that's kind of like we move on. But then I heard that, and I was like, oh, yep.
But that's the
Hulk's
thing.
Here.
But that's the thing. Even at that point, it wasn't full Hulk yet. It was still Banner Hulk.
Yeah, that was just my clue into like, oh,
we're gonna get real.
But we're getting it, and it's gonna be through the mechanism of this this mind control situation.
Yes.
It's gonna override the things that Banner spent most of the MCU setting up to protect himself from the other guy.
Yes. But the best part was that like we had Banner Hulk at first, and then we had him lose complete control.
Incredible Chekhov's gun placement of the inhibitor at the beginning being this like, oh yeah, I've got this. Oh, and maybe Peter can kind of adapt it to the purpose of regulating his arachnid DNA.
Yeah. Incredible
setup payoff to that is going to be the thing that, makes the climax of the film like get real serious, is that this fails.
Yes. Well, and there's two things to that. One, I like the theory. It's never stated in the film, but I like the theory that because he was relying on the inhibitor, he essentially atrophied his muscles to naturally be able to keep Hulk back.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then secondly, I love that when real Hulk comes out and Peter's trying to get his version of the thing on, he's like, why does your skin have to be so thick? But it was so great to see because it even just Peter looking at him and being like, I didn't know you could get that big.
Yeah.
And it's just like the design was there, the big like upper lip thing was back, like the full character design was there. It was great. I was just happy to see it.
So I thought that line was that they just designed his character bigger relatively, just to as far as escalation goes. I just realized Peter's never actually met real Hulk.
Correct.
Like it just occurred to me like, oh, we've never actually like had the two of them like as like, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, because even in Avengers, that Hulk is a semi-restrained Hulk because he's capable of working with the team.
Right.
We haven't seen an unrestrained Hulk since 2009.
Yeah, like that Hulk, you couldn't do the Black Widow, the stupid, the sun's getting real low. No. You could not do that with the Ed Norton Hulk.
No. And the only parallel to that was obviously the one person he really cared about in 2009 was able
Tyler,
to
right?
was able to get through to him. And, obviously slightly different, Peter was able to get through to him. And I think that was mainly because there were synapses firing. It was like, who the hell's Peter? And like, there was the like cross universe connection.
So here's the thing about that moment that leverages my favorite thing about the Hulk in the comics, which is that they are two different people who have different lived experiences. Because Bruce Banner was Bruce Banner when Doctor Strange cast the spell to make everybody forget about Spider-Man.
Oh, I love that idea.
I immediately clocked this. I think the subtext of that is that because Hulk was latent, and you see this all over the comics where Hulk knows stuff that Banner doesn't because of when they are latent versus active.
Yeah.
I think because Hulk was latent when that spell happened, he remembers. I think that's why he lets go.
Because he knows that this is an ally. Yeah, I love that idea. I think that's awesome. So that made me really happy. I also think, going back to our conversation at the beginning of the show about themes, despite the fact that this is like a second half adolescence film, it is interesting that the first half theme of hormones are in this film. And the fact that he's having to deal with the whole arachnid thing and kind of adjusting to the change of becoming an adult in that way. So it's like, it's I think that's part of why it feels like an origin story, because you have the social implications of the second half of adolescence, but you've also got the biological implications of the first half of adolescence in one film, which is really cool. But I really love that. I know this is kind of a, hit or miss thing for different people. I love the idea that him becoming full Spider-Man essentially means web shooters are gone and it's full natural.
That was a curveball for me, because they make this joke about that in No Way Home, where Raimi embraced the natural web shooters because he's a horror director. He's fascinated by that type of thing. With Amazing Spider-Man, they're kind of going for like a Nolanified type Spider-Man, which again, not everybody liked. I loved. So they're like, oh, we're going to emphasize technology. He still has natural powers. He's still grippy, but like, we're going to also make him kind of a tech-forward hero, because that is kind of what he is in the comics to some extent. And Tom Holland being a, Iron Man light at first, makes sense that his powers are primarily from technology. Interesting pivot that I did not expect, that they were going to almost kind of like backtrack the thing they set up in No Way Home of, this is an anomaly with this universe's Spider-Man. Like, he's weird because he can do this. Mm-hmm. Versus, is Garfield the weird one who can't do this? Mm-hmm. Because this is the natural state that they get to. Or does Garfield, in the future of his character, develop this eventually? We just never saw it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, complete curveball for me, but it was kind of a cool escalation of the character.
Well, and also it's like he got supercharged because, obviously Raimi's Spider-Man is very powerful and stuff like mm-hmm. that. But like seeing him go from his baseline level of powers mm-hmm. and abilities to then essentially like ultra, like the only way I can describe it is like, this is Spider-Man Prime, where he has the natural shooters and his senses and strength and agility, and the fact that he has like borderline Superman style super speed was really interesting to me, and that was communicated very clearly through the Ninja Star reaction, where he's watching it go by him.
That it's shot for shot the Flash in Zack Snyder's Justice League, when Bruce tests him by throwing the Batarang.
Yes.
I think it's like one's moving clockwise, the other counterclockwise, but this exact same. I was like, I see what you did.
Yes, yeah. And so it's interesting because like I don't think we've, other than some elements of Raimi, seen something like that.
Not that level of super speed from Spider-Man.
No, we've seen a punch, but we haven't seen like an object thrown. Now, granted, it's not a bullet. It's not like Superman level full out.
Faster than a punch, though.
Yeah, much faster than a punch. And it's really interesting to see. It's like, okay, so as we're gearing up this character for other things in the future, like he's bumping up a level. Like he's no longer just like, kind of under-ruse. He is like, He's ready for big potatoes.
Which is kind of what I expected they were going to do with him right after Endgame. Because I remember after Endgame, and I was like, well, there's going to be some restoration of the Avengers somehow. Mm-hmm. And I kind of assumed it would take the form of Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers in the comics, which is from like the 2010s at some point, where Spider-Man is one of like the principal founders of the team. And it's after he's married MJ and everything. And so I kind of assumed that like, the original kind of big three were Tony, Cap, and Thor. All right, who are the next three going to be? Like, is it going to be like Doctor Strange, T'Challa, and Captain Marvel? Is it going to be, who's it going to be? Like, who are the people that are going to be? And I always kind of figured Spider-Man would come into one of those because he is the most marketable, highest profit Marvel character.
Yep.
And they kind of just like held him in his own little world for a while up until this point. But this does feel like the real on-ramp to meet in Doomsday, especially given that that's going into Secret Wars. That is a very spider-centric story. It does seem like they're setting him up to be like, he's going to be one of the main guys. He's going to be one of the leaders of the team now.
Which realistically, strategically, for like the business side of Marvel and Sony, makes
definitely
should
have happened.
Yeah.
Should have happened by now. Definitely a good time for it to happen now.
Yeah. And I think they're making the, like, not that I am going to claim that I have the same level of understanding, knowledge, and foresight as people who are running a company and have been for over a decade, but like from the outside, this seems like the right move, business-wise and story-wise at the same time.
Especially given that, as we talked about when we discussed his performance in The Odyssey, this makes a lot of sense as an off-ramp. what I could see having happen is Feige said there were no movies between Doomsday and Secret Wars. I kind of don't believe him. I could very easily see Spider-Man 5 between the two, and then we kind of Spider-Man 6 a farewell after this Avengers duology is done, and then he's off into the sunset. And
well, and also like business-wise for Tom, like when you look at like because somebody was putting out like the Spider-Man payday and like marking Zendaya and Tom Holland's paychecks throughout the films. I mean, dude has a exponential curve for his take home on this stuff. Yeah. And the box office of this one alone, just on opening weekend, is going to justify probably his take home for whatever the next one is doubling.
Yeah.
And
he's not going to be far behind Downey making 45 on Doomsday.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, obviously he's maturing as an actor, at least in the roles that people are willing to cast him for. But at the same time, I'm sure he recognizes from a business perspective, I'm already Spider-Man for life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. He's done the most movies. Like anybody born after 2005, they will think of him the way people think of Reeves' Superman and Bale's Batman.
Yes.
Where they just become, for one reason or another, just what lingers in people's minds.
Yes.
I kind of got the tail end of Raimi. I was just the right age for Garfield. You were the right age for Raimi, and everybody older than you was Raimi.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who is in college right now or younger, it will be Tom Holland probably forever.
Yes.
I think if there's another definitive live-action Spider-Man, it will be Miles. I don't think there will ever be a Peter Parker on the level of Holland ever again.
I think I'm a unique case where I grew up, it was Raimi, and I never really watched the Garfield ones because I just wasn't particularly interested in it. But like to me, it's Tom. I love his portrayal of the character. I love Tobey. I love those movies. But for me, there's just something about this version of the character, even though I'm not a big Spider-Man guy, that I love. I think this is a great iteration of it. But yeah, I think 6 makes a lot of sense for Tom. I feel like if I was his agent, I would essentially be like, ride this out as long as you can because you're already Spider-Man forever, so you might as well make the most of it. Have fun doing it. Make sure you're getting paid the adequate amount. And then also it allows you that, you can have an off-ramp at any time. It allows you that safety net to do risky, crazy projects.
Yeah.
And have fun while you're doing this on the side.
And I think there being this overlap between the Odyssey and the end of Spider-Man makes a lot of sense for him given, who was this I was listening to? It was Big Picture podcast. Okay. Sean Fennessy and Amanda something that we're covering this. And basically, like, one of the biggest things in their sort of speculation, one of the biggest things keeping Tom Holland in the role of Spider-Man for so long is that his other projects have not caught up yet. He's generally picked misses. Again, I will always shout out The Devil All the Time as being a great film, super underrated. Go watch it on Netflix. But aside from that, he's done Cherry, bad. Uncharted, bad. Like he's deviated a little bit, and it's mostly been stuff that not only wasn't financially successful, just like was not well accepted by anybody. And so now that he's had what you can kind of see from interviews as this like come to Jesus moment of like being on the set of the Odyssey and then immediately taking that to Spider-Man and going like, okay, now we need to start like, him realizing I need to start expecting directors that I'm working with to know what they're doing and be able to communicate to me, why am I doing this? And now he's going to be doing something potentially with Thomas Vinterberg, which is super out of left field for his career. I can see him over the course of the next however long it takes him to make 4 more appearances as Spider-Man, doing other side projects with the knowledge and experience he got from working with Nolan of like what's a worthwhile project to be on. And so he can build up this catalog of stronger, in like the critics' eyes, stronger movies that then when he is finally done with Spider-Man, he has some cachet to go to other jobs and say like, hey, I'm not just a one-trick pony. Look at all these auteur directors I've worked with since Nolan.
Yeah. I do find it interesting that it was for both films coming out the same weekend. We had the 3 actors of Zendaya, Tom, and John all in both movies.
It's funny, isn't it?
It is. It's odd. I wonder. I don't remember the casting directors for both.
Sarah Haley Finn is pretty much always the Marvel casting director. The casting director for the Odyssey was not her.
I was gonna say, yeah, because they're different studios as well.
Universal versus Disney. Yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting to have that much crossover.
Well, so Tom got the Odyssey offer first, I believe.
Okay.
They've recounted this, and I think that Nolan. Oh yeah, because Nolan then went to Tom Holland. He's like, hey, just like it's professional courtesy, I'm sending this to your fiance. I want her to play Athena. Tom Holland's like, yeah, dude, hell yeah.
That's great.
Here, I've got the casting director right here. For the Odyssey, it is John Papsidera. Very good casting director. Also for Superman, if that name rings a bell for you.
Oh, yeah, it does. I was wondering why that sounded familiar.
Yeah, has been the casting director for a lot of Taylor Sheridan shows, Oppenheimer.
Got it.
Got it. Really, really good at his job. Yeah, it was kind of funny that after the Odyssey, the highest grossing actor of the year was Benny Safdie, because he was in the Odyssey and he was Bowser Jr. at Super Mario Galaxy, which at that point was like in the top 3, one of the top grossing movies of the year.
Yeah.
And there was that announcement, and people in the comments were like, yeah, he can enjoy this for 2 weeks, and then as soon as Brand New Day hits, it'll be Zendaya, and it will remain Zendaya for the rest of the year because of Dune.
Yeah. With that said, we are going to have to wrap up very shortly, but there is one thing we still have yet to talk about.
I could not agree more. One of the things I texted you like on the way over here was my most interesting thing to talk about. Why don't you walk me through as somebody who did not guess ahead of time? I sensed where the film was going, and I didn't dare hope, given that I've been teased by this type of thing before.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like for you to have that scene happen?
So I had no idea who the main villain was going to be, and I had not paid attention to anything online, and I also was not actively thinking about possibilities.
Yeah. And for context, though, like if you had been looking at the rumors, a lot of them were like, oh, it's going to be Scorpion and or Tombstone, because that people had seen them on set.
Yeah.
But then we get into the film, and their scenes are more, especially Tombstone, more or less done within, and the hand too. Like that's all like in the opening montage, basically. So like everybody was kind of rumored as like, oh, which Spider-Man rogue are they going to use?
Yeah.
Gets cleared out in the first 10 minutes.
Yes.
And it leaves this door wide open of, okay, who's really the villain of this film?
And so that's the thing is like, I really was not thinking about other opportunities because I'm so ignorant to a lot of the Marvel and Spider-Man rogues gallery characters that I was just like, I have no idea who it could possibly be. I did not even consider the possibility of an X-Men character being involved because I was like, it's Sony, it's not Fox. Like, you know, we're two different areas here. I can't remember who did what deals had been made. So it's like, as far as I'm aware, it's like, that's not even the realm of possibility. And then a redheaded girl shows up and I'm like, oh, and I think they said her name before like a clear depiction of her was shown. Because when he was analyzing the footage, it came up with the name of like Jean Grey or something like that, I think. And I think on the recognition of it being Jean Grey, I think all of us who were sitting there, we all went, no way.
I knew Sadie Sink was going to be in the film.
I did not know either.
And there was all this like cutesy stuff of, can't tell you who I'm playing, you know, but there was always like, okay, Sadie Sink just got done being in the admittedly poorly wrapped up, but still one of the biggest TV shows in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Has the best-selling power she might ever have in her career right now. Feels like a weird actress to just drop in as a bit role. Wasn't thinking about her as like an antagonist, somebody that was going to be 3-4 on the call sheet. I was just thinking like, this is going to be somebody.
The only thing I could have seen, and I don't think they would have done this because of Tom and Zendaya's relationship, would be if there was some weird universe-bending thing where she then became MJ.
Yeah. And there was speculation about that when she was first cast. Like, oh, is the Michelle Jones MJ thing a fake out? Is this Mary Jane Watson? I think that was stupid. I don't think that would have happened.
Yeah.
But so I never really lent much credence because they got the rights to the X-Men. They bought Fox in 2019. So the year of Endgame. And ever since then, I'm like, when are you doing mutants? When are you doing mutants? When are you doing mutants? Oh, we're going to do mutants. Miss Marvel, who is not a mutant in the comics. So I basically gave up on there being any legitimate cool X-Men introduction that was not just sort of the Deadpool and Wolverine. We're going to shoehorn in the old actors for the purposes of nostalgia.
Which always, like, I want to go rewatch that movie again because I did enjoy it, but it is weird to me with how adamant Hugh Jackman was during the production, post-production, and promotion of Logan.
Yeah.
That was it.
I would imagine it was probably the huge fucking bag of money they gave him.
I'm sure.
As well as, I think, the assurance that this isn't Logan. Like, this is not a psych, he's not really dead ending. I have a feeling Hugh Jackman would have turned it down if it was that. I would have walked out of the theater if it was that, because Logan is my favorite Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it being this, like, lost, wayward Wolverine that happens to be played by the same guy makes it a little bit more... It's still a very, like, cynical, greedy movie, but it makes it feel a little bit less so, given that it is a new take on the character that, you know, is a fun homage to the traditional Hugh Jackman Wolverine without feeling like you're kind of spitting in the face of people that have, like, worked on these years of X-Men films. So just because of stuff like that, I kind of figured, like, they're not going to ever do their own original X-Men. There's the weird... I didn't watch the Marvels, but apparently there's, like, a Kelsey Grammer cameo that's out of left field in there.
Interesting.
That, yeah, I'm just... Okay, whatever. But then... so I'm like, okay, Sadie Sink is probably somebody interesting from the comics, probably not somebody groundbreaking, whatever. But then the villain of the film is doing telepathy. It's like, there aren't any Spider-Man villains that can really do telepathy.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they've gone, like, way in the cookie jar deeper than my knowledge of Spider-Man goes, there's not really a telepath. And then somebody with a Sadie Sink-ish stature is in the hood. It's like, oh, I wonder if this is Sadie Sink's character. And then you see her with the red hair, and I was like, oh, yeah. All right. What redheaded telepaths do we know in the Marvel universe?
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And so when the name came up on the screen, I was like, yep, okay, yeah, here we go. We're off to the races.
Yep.
And she was shockingly good for the themes of the film. And, you know, it's always fun when you have characters playing roles in comic book stories that they don't usually play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jean is never portrayed as antagonist to Spider-Man. She's really only once portrayed as an over antagonist of the X-Men. It's just fun. It was just fun to, like, experiment with her character, introduce her in a cool way that sets up a lot of stuff. Like, you get her family history, which is important to her backstory in the comics. You get this sense of that there's going to be persecution around being a mutant. You get this sense of she's going to have to figure out how to use this without hurting herself or others, which is a big deal with her. You have this kind of Cerebro teaser with the chamber that amplifies her powers.
Yeah.
It fit way better than on paper one would think it might have. And Sadie Sink did a phenomenal job. And it didn't... I think Cretton and the people who were on the writing team for the film did a great job of... She didn't feel like Famke Janssen. She didn't feel like Sophie Turner. She felt like, oh, this is a actually unique, well thought out, new take on Jean Grey.
Yes.
And I think Jean's just the perfect character to, like, bring it in with. I really got over, as great as Hugh Jackman was, again, as much as Logan's my favorite Marvel-derived movie, I got really over the fact that it was Wolverine featuring the X-Men.
Yeah.
And so taking a different character who was kind of underwritten for most of the franchise and saying, no, you're going to be the person. Like, you're the Iron Man, essentially, of the X-Men in the MCU. Impeccable choice. Could not be more excited. Would have loved a little bit more of a teaser. Would have loved a little bit of, like, Xavier from behind, just a bald guy. We don't see who it is. He sees the blip and he's like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, so, and just to wrap it up here, because we got to get rocking. Oh,
yes, we do.
I was surprised because I think she was on, like, a bus or something at the very end going into like a wilderness drive.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to have, like, a quick little scene.
There's a mansion over there. Yeah.
Like I thought we were going to have her show up at it.
Clearly she's going upstate. I don't know if they shot it on the actual, like the highway that takes you up to Westchester County.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the payoff for that will probably be post Doomsday Secret Wars. Like it'll be after that whole thing is wrapped up. I would just like a little bit more hook, a little bit more.
Yeah. Maybe because they haven't casted enough people for that yet.
No, yeah. So the last couple things, there are some casting things that have come out for the X-Men since the release of Brand New Day. Samara Weaving is Emma Frost.
Okay,
is in talks. I don't think it's been. Everything's been signed and dated. Great choice. For Emma Frost, who was just criminally underutilized in the Fox films, and this is probably even less real than that, but the rumor that has been circulating is for the role of Mystique, Indy Navarrete, famously the
no way
of Obsession.
Crazy how cause she was in Superman and Lois for ages. Crazy how one movie has just skyrocketed.
And now
her
she's like, So mind-blowingly good casting.
Yeah.
If this is the caliber of actor that we're gonna see for the X-Men, I always worry with some of these, like, are they just gonna pull something out of left? Because it's the X-Men. Like, it needs to be the future of Marvel. If they're gonna bring them in a new format, they need to be able to hold everybody's attention in the way that Downey and Evans and Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner and Chris Hemsworth, and Ruffalo and Samuel Jackson, like all that core Marvel cast, it needs to be actors that can hold that as well. I think if we're off to the start of Sadie Sink, Samara Weaving, and Indy Navarrete, there was also like a thing about some of the others, Kaylee Spaney as Rogue, incredible. Charles Melton as Beast. I think Charles Melton's a really good actor. Criminally robbed of an Oscar nomination for May December. Don't know that I love him for Beast, but just like it's all these actors that are, I think, powerhouses. They're about to come into their own. I'm feeling optimistic about the X-Men in a way that I haven't been optimistic about too much as far as Marvel goes. But to kind of get my last thought out of the way, I'm just gonna go ahead and say I think live action Spider-Man wise, the Spider-Verse films are their own thing. I love them both, but just setting them aside briefly, I'm pretty comfortable at number 4. I think for me it goes Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2 with Maguire, Spider-Man 1 with Maguire, and then this.
I think this might be my number 1. Seriously.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2 is amazing. And I love it. I love the original Maguire Spider-Man. I really love how they did this one. I really love the balance. I really love the storylines. I love the way the character develops. I love a lot of the way this ended up maturing the character.
It's truly a brand new day for Marvel.
It really is.